Welcome to Skilled Nation, the podcast that's all about real careers, real skills, and the real-life payoff of choosing the trades. I'm your host, Jimmy Rhodes, and today we're handing over the mic to the people doing the work. We're striking the arc and stepping into the world of welding, a trade where precision meets power, and your work leaves a mark that literally holds the world together. In this episode, we'll talk certification, career paths, and the hustle it takes to level up in one of the most in-demand trades out there. If you're ready to get fired up about a career that pays well, travels well, and feels like an adrenaline rush every single day, well, you're in the right place. So let's fire it up. This is Burn Bright, the welding life. Let's get into it. Today we're joined by Matt Braden, a welding instructor at RSI. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's definitely a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's talk about your past. Okay, what were you thinking in high school was going to be your path, and then what journey did you actually take?
So whenever I was in high school, I actually planned on trying to become a mechanic or an engineer. And whenever I was working for a municipality in Amarillo, I ended up having my shop's welder. He hurt his back, just, weird positioning and stuff. But my boss ended up asking everybody, he's like, who wants to play with fire and get paid for it? And I was like, I'm all in. You had me at fire.
It's primal, right?
It is.
We love fire.
Yep. I've always been a pyro. Even whenever I'd go camping and stuff like that, I was the first one building the fires. Granted, too big of fires sometimes, but it's all part of the game.
Did you do the thing with the magnifying glass?
Yes. Yeah. That was the first way I learned how to start fire. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So you're the guy around the campfire that keeps it going well into the night.
Till the wee hours in the morning.
All right. So this is a little bit different. Tell me what is actually happening in a weld.
So whenever you're welding, you're using electricity rather than the fire aspect of it, but you're using electricity to ultimately melt your filler metal onto your work material, which is the base material of whatever you're trying to stick together.
Okay, so it's not literal fire, it's more
electricity.
Heat?
Yeah.
Is the electricity generating the heat to melt?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
sir.
Man, it would be fun to go old school. Get a kiln going.
Yeah.
Use real fire again.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of blacksmithing. I've made some knives and stuff out of railroad spikes whenever I was back in Texas. One of the first methods I learned to start welding was oxyacetylene welding, which you actually use fire to start melting the metal, and then it's like TIG welding, but you're using fire rather than electricity.
All right. You just said a bunch of terms that I don't know. What's a TIG weld?
So a TIG weld is tungsten inert gas welding. Basically, you're using a tungsten rod, and you're focusing all of your electricity and your power through that. And it basically, it's like a pinpoint welding process. It's used for aerospace. It's used for I guess more rare metals and stuff like that. You can weld on titanium with it, stainless steel. There's a plethora of different metals that you can use it on, but what it does is it just focuses all the heat into a pinpoint area.
All right, you use the first $10 word of the day, plethora. Love it. And when you talk about using this in like aerospace, these are really high-level applications. How technical and just, I don't know, kind of, here's my $10 word, esoteric, can this kind of work get?
It can be it's a very demanding industry. Ultimately, you can go from fixing roll cages on dune buggies to working on boats, to even getting into that aerospace aspect of it, where you could be doing contracts for Northrop and Boeing, or you could be working for the military as a subcontractor and stuff as well. It's definitely one of the highest paying welding industries out there for sure. And it can be very tedious between the quality control inspections and just overall making sure that you're able to show up to work and perform your absolute 100% best the entire time. Like, that's crucial. That's what makes a welder, is we have to be perfect whenever we show up to work, especially if other people's lives and stuff depend on it.
Okay, you're bringing up a lot of points. We're talking to Matt Braden, welding instructor at RSI. So when you are instructing these young people who are just getting in, what kind of emphasis do you have to put on that professionalism outside the skill set?
So professionalism outside the skill set, first thing that you got to look for is you got to be safe. You got to look out for the people around you and stuff too. And I mean, that really kind of pours over into every aspect of life. If you're one of those people that like, you'll risk it all just to make a quick buck, that's going to kind of be something that kind of holds you back in this industry. You really got to be safe. It's really one of the most dangerous industries out there, especially for skilled trade, between lifting heavy metals, the electricity, the heat that's involved with it too, and you're all geared up with leather and everything as well. It's definitely one of those trades that you got to have kind of that mindset and that lifestyle with it to be able to make sure that you're safe and you get to go home every day.
Yeah, that safety first aspect, but you're also talking about, simple things like make sure you're getting there on time, making sure you're, punctuality, comporting yourself on the job in a certain way too. So, is that something that you actually teach in your class too?
Yeah, if you're not early, you're late. That's one of my favorite things to explain to the students. If anybody can learn how to weld, but it's the work ethic of a welder that makes a long-term welder ultimately. You gotta constantly stay moving, and you gotta make sure that the job gets done, and you're there until the job gets done 90% of the time. And deadlines are deadlines, so you gotta you gotta make sure you're there early.
Yeah, you got to push.
Hmm.
So tell me about some of the safety gear, because the iconic thing that I know about is I see the helmet, right?
Right.
And it has that really dark band in there that you're looking through.
Right.
Obviously, that's eye protection. What is that made of? What is it doing? What is the purpose?
So they used to be made of cobalt glass, but now what they're using is auto darkening lenses, and basically what it does, it's like basically blinking. Whenever you go to weld that lens, it literally turns dark, just dark enough to where you can see the arc, but still, or just bright enough to where you can see the arc, but still dark enough to where you can protect your eyes from getting burnt and stuff like that as well.
Because it'll burn your cornea?
Yeah, it's basically welding is UV radiation. Anything that produces an arc produces that UV radiation, and it can burn your eyes. It can give you sunburns. Like, it'll mess up all sorts of stuff. It'll even bleach your shirts too. So you'll see us go through quite a bit of those as well.
So that's why you have to have arm protection as well?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
burn?
between that and also the spatter and stuff from the welds, those little molten balls of metal will fall on your arms, and you got to make sure that you stay protected. If not, your arms will get all eaten up, kind of like mine, but hopefully not so bad.
So there's always sparks flying. How dangerous are those, and how long did it take you to just get used to being cascaded in all these little sparks? And are those little pieces of metal, or what are those?
Yeah, pretty much those the sparks and stuff, they're like little hot daggers pretty much that are flying through the air. And the best thing that you can do is just try and stay out of the way of it. It took me a little while, even being the pyro that I was. It definitely still took me a while to be able to take that heat and to feel the metal actually kind of hitting your skin from time to time.
Yeah.
It'll surprise you sometimes, but after a few years, it's just kind of a hazard of the trade. Or
Yeah, the people I know who do it a lot, it just seems they don't even think about it.
yeah,
It just becomes second nature.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of like being a truck driver. It comes with the back problems and stuff like that. So I mean, it's a portion of it that it's a mental obstacle that you have to overcome.
Your arms don't look chewed up. I don't know what you're talking about. They look
Not too bad. They definitely have their little spots here and there, but
Well, I have so many questions. When I was working with some guys doing resto mods,
mhm.
and a lot of welding involved in that. And when they would get the chassis, they would leave kind of, and I don't know what you call this. What do you call at the seam where there's a little bit of a bulge in the weld?
Oh, like a tie-in. Basically, it's where the weld started on one side of it, and then it's the other part of the weld ends on that spot too. Normally, those are tie-ins. There's ways to do those tie-ins to where you can leave it 100% seamless, but it takes years and years of practice.
Okay. Well, they came with an instruction from the chassis builder not to grind them smooth. Whereas when you're doing body work, of course, you have to
Mhm.
grind your welds,
Yep.
right? So what does that do to the integrity? Because apparently for the chassis, they wanted to have extra strength and integrity, so they wanted to leave, that seam. Whereas in the body, they didn't need, it's not as weight bearing, so they didn't need to do that. So is it stronger to leave that intact?
Yes, sometimes whenever you are instructed to not grind the weld, normally it's because they're wanting all that extra metal for reinforcement. Whenever you start to grind down that metal and it polishes it all out and smooths it out, ultimately you're taking away from the overall strength of that weld by doing that
Okay.
because you're just removing material.
Okay. How many different kinds of welds are there?
I mean, there's tons of different processes. I mean, you're looking just what we offer at RSI is we offer 4 different processes. We offer TIG welding, stick welding, flux core, and also MIG welding. And I've been lucky enough to have a lot of those throughout my career growing up. And so coming out here and seeing that I could be a welding instructor and teach people all those little tips and tricks of the trade that I was learning is ultimately, it's a dream. Like I love teaching, and I mean I've always done it on job sites and stuff too, but now I get to do it as a profession, and so it's definitely pretty cool. But between that, there's oxyacetylene welding too. They have robotics welding as well. I mean, sky's really the limit if you can think about it. It's out there. Thermite welding.
It's incredible. Okay, we're talking to somebody who knows his welding. It's Matt Braden, welding instructor at RSI. You already talked about TIG with the
Mhm.
tungsten. Define those other three that you mentioned that they
The stick
teach.
welding is probably where we'll start off. So that's basically a flux covered electrode. So it's basically a metal rod with like this gray chalky like substance on it. But what it does is it protects the weld pool from sucking in atmospheric contaminants.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Never would have
and
thought. So this is all like chemistry.
there's definitely a level of chemistry and science behind it. And also like a lot of metallurgy because there's lots of times you'll have to be welding on different kinds of base materials and stuff, like carbon steel to stainless steel. But really with stick welding, it's just like the TIG welding aspect, like we talked about earlier. You're focusing all that electricity through that steel rod, and it comes out the end of the rod, and that flux, like I said, it kind of coats it to make sure that it doesn't get all bubbly or anything like that, or have any contaminants in there.
So when I think of welding, you have two hands. You're using one is that stick of material, right? And the other one is you're creating the arc, the actual welder.
So that one's TIG welding. TIG welding is where you have a torch, and then you have a little bit of a filler rod, and you're feeding it
Okay.
in there too. But stick welding is just a one-handed process. Most of the
Really?
time, you're just going to want to lean up against something, and then you start running your bead, and it gets hot quick though.
Running a bead. I'm used to hearing that in caulking.
Yeah, I mean, some people make them look the same.
But don't go along with your finger at the end, right?
Nope.
It'll
Nope,
be a little hot.
definitely not.
Matt Braden is a welding instructor at RSI. There are two more you're going to define for us. We got the TIG, we got the stick. What's the
Next is going to be MIG. So
MIG?
what you're using is you're using a solid wire to basically transfer that arc and also a shielding gas through basically a gun that you're using to lay down that weld. But it has nozzles, it has like protective coating all over that gun, so that way it
Is it
doesn't
all
burn
coming out
up.
of the same gun?
Yep, it all comes out of the same gun. It's like it's a semi-automatic feeding process.
Okay.
So you press the trigger and the wire starts shooting out, and the gas surrounds it as well, ultimately acting kind of like that flux. The same thing in TIG welding too. It's all gas covered. So what that gas does is it basically creates a little, in a way, of ozone around that weld and
Like a
keeps.
little barrier? Okay. And
Mhm, most definitely.
there's a fourth.
And the fourth is flux core. So it's basically like MIG. It's a hollowed out wire, but all that flux that's on the stick rod is on the inside of that wire. And
Oh,
you
so as you
can,
melt it, it releases?
as you melt it, it kind of burns into the puddle, and all that flux and stuff floats to the top of the puddle.
What's the Po?
The puddle is the molten metal,
Okay.
basically the steel that you're laying down. And with that flux on the inside of it, since it's a little bit less dense, it's going to float to the top of that molten metal puddle. And you can also use gas with that one as well. That's called dual shield, or you can do it without gas if you have just regular flux self shield, and it it produces some of the strongest welds out there. Definitely some of the hotter ones that I've experienced, but that was definitely my forte whenever I first moved out here was welding with flux and MIG in general. A lot of troubleshooting electrical stuff that you have to deal with,
Yeah.
but that's ultimately the challenges are what makes the welder. So,
Is there anything you ever welded where you're like, oh my gosh, I hope that holds?
I think every welder can honestly say that there's been a couple times out there where they're really kind of wondering, they're like, I don't know if this looks right, but my personal preference is whenever I'm welding on something and I'm wondering if it's gonna be strong enough, I always add a little bit extra weld in there too. Um, there's no such thing as being too safe.
Yeah.
So there's
Especially when it's load bearing or there's going to be people on it. I imagine there's a lot of pressure.
most definitely, like for instance, there's a maintenance platform that I made for the mines out here whenever I was working for another company, and it had to go like 10,000 feet into a mining shaft, and it had to be able to hold thousands upon thousands of pounds on this platform with like fold out aluminum pieces and everything for them to be able to work. There's lots of people's lives that really kind of depend on welders, and I take it seriously, most definitely.
Your lives are in your hands. You have to. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this career, it sounds like, is taking you around the country. I mean, so where's it taken you just physically and career-wise? I mean, it's given you opportunities to travel. It's given you career opportunities. Talk about those, what it's opened up for you.
So starting off, like I said, I was in a garage. But whenever I finally got the hang of welding overall and I decided to go out into the mines, it took me into this area that looked like it was literally a desert. And I mean, there's like as far as you could possibly see, there is just miles and miles of just open fields. And honestly, it's probably some of the most intense work that I ever experienced. And honestly, I think that personal, I've grown more personally through that hard work and everything. Trying to keep yourself motivated to keep on doing those hard tasks and everything. And ultimately, I think that's where it's taken me further than anything else in this world. I've gone from the plains of Texas all the way down to South Texas. I've gone to uh, here in Arizona. I've gone up north in Arizona as well, along with being here in Phoenix. Lots of traveling locally, but it can take you anywhere and everywhere. I've seen welders from the school go all the way up to Wisconsin or go up to North Dakota or maybe even up to Canada in some places as well. It'll take you anywhere and everywhere. But also, it's taken me from wondering how I'm going to get my next or pay next month's rent to, not really having to worry about that.
All right, let's talk about this. It's because you mentioned it earlier. You said it's one of the higher paying skilled trades.
Mm-hmm.
What can somebody, they go to RSI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what could they expect that starting pay in their career path to be? And then what is the path? What could that grow to?
So, as a starting welder, more than likely, and I mean, this is just a very generalized, like bottom of the line sort of welding. You could be looking at anywhere from like $20 to $30 an hour, but it could take you all the way up to, I've heard stories of people making $140 an hour. Whenever Katrina hit, there was always welders that were needed out there too. And I mean, whenever there's a dire need for a welder, the money's there.
And so if you're willing to travel for it, especially.
Yeah, especially if
You
you're
can get
willing to
that bump.
travel for it. You can not only get that high hourly rate, but you also get per diem, which is, travel pay. So you can't ever really
And they
hate
usually
on
put
that.
you up too.
Yep.
So
normally
without
put you-
housing costs,
Mhm.
your meals are covered. So whatever you're making, you could sock away. That's a good way to build a nest egg.
It definitely is. And if you're going to travel, my biggest recommendation would be to, stick it out for 2, 3 months and do nothing but work that whole time and then kind of kick back and relax after you're done and enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Take some breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good advice. I'm sure you're giving it to your students. We're talking to Matt Braden. He's a welding instructor at RSI. What do you wear under all that gear? You're talking about working in the middle of a desert, Texas, Arizona, you're talking about hot places. You're working
Yep.
with hot stuff. How do you just stay hydrated? How do you not sweat it all out? I mean, do you wear anything special, like wicking material underneath? What do you do?
So for the most part, whenever you're welding, you want to wear 100% cotton. You don't want to wear anything that's plastic or anything like that because it kind of melts rather than burns.
Your
So
clothing melts on you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely does.
form fitting.
So I always like to wear long sleeve shirts underneath my leather jacket, and ultimately, whatever I can do to put one more layer in between me and that molten metal is gonna. That's my priority right there.
But like you're saying, something that wicks, something that breathes.
hmm
What has this offered you, like outside of the job,
hmm
right? What has this path done for you? What has it made possible in your personal life outside of work that wouldn't have been possible without the career?
Honestly, being able to support my family the way I wanted to. Before I was always, like I said, I was worrying about how I was going to pay the next month's rent or whatever. And, you know, being able to sit there and provide for your family and for those that you care about, and also like the professional and character or the personal and character growth that it provides for you by being able to, anything hard that you have to do, it ends up building you up afterwards. You start to learn more about yourself. You start to learn more about the people that you work with and how much you rely on them to make sure that they do their jobs as well. Like it really kind of builds bonds with a lot of people in this industry. And I mean, it's a in demand industry. And so there's not just a whole lot of us out there. And so, especially guys that have been in the field for 10, 20, 30 years, you start to remember faces from different job sites and definitely make a good amount of friends out there.
Yeah, and that also becomes a network for looking for other gigs, I would imagine too.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's what I always tell my students too, is network with everybody else in this welding shop, because
Yeah,
I can guarantee you whenever you're at a job site and that job ends or you guys get it done early, you can hit up one of your other classmates and be able to find your next job.
I never even thought of that. Yeah, RSI is like your first network while you're going and getting
Yep.
your training.
Most definitely. And I mean, that's how I got this job at RSI. That's how I got a previous job that I worked at right before RSI. Like it makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's one of the things, you think about the training, you don't think about the networking aspect,
hmm
but that's a good thing to call out. And you would know, you're a welding instructor at RSI. We're talking to Matt Braden. What about signature welds? Yeah, I mean, can you tell, how like people have a way of doing things and you could just tell, oh, well, that's a Matt Braden weld.
Yeah.
Do you have a signature kind of move that you do? And can you tell somebody's weld from someone else's weld?
Yes, most definitely. I see every weld as sort of like a fingerprint for a welder. Everybody welds a little bit different way. What works for one person's not going to work for the other. One of my biggest things that I like to do is I mainly focus on consistency and overall aesthetics too, because a lot of the pieces that I used to work on, they were going to be the highlight of that project, and so it had to look absolutely perfect. My signature is I always like to do whipping motions because I like to have that stacking dime sort of look, especially like with
So it's like a back and forth, you mean? Like a zig?
yeah, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward,
Okay,
one
I
step
gotcha.
back, and
Like
basically
a crochet.
yeah, yeah. It's like sewing with fire, ultimately. But that's definitely my signature. Lots of people have their own ways or their own ways that they think that the aesthetics of that weld should look, and it's really kind of it's one of those things. It's a skilled trade that's also an art form too, and that's the beauty behind it. Is it can take you from being in the mines to just to aerospace to even working on art pieces for other people. And I mean, they're high dollar a lot of the time. Polished stainless steel with some TIG weld on it, and you can see all the colorations of the stainless and turning that red, blue, gold, and orange color. Like it's really kind of it's beautiful. Like
That's a whole aspect. Yeah, I've seen so much large scale, especially public art. It's all
mhm.
welds. So everyone's heard the term, and maybe this is outside the purview of your class, but everyone's heard the phrase "tradies get the ladies."
We do.
How true is that?
It's
What's
very
this do for the
true.
dating life?
So whenever it comes to the idea of jobs and stuff like that, women love it whenever you have, like a super manly job. Just it's very masculine and stuff like that, and they love that. I don't know what it is, but all I can say is I'm a victim of that. So.
Oh, a victim? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what, like, when people ask what you do, what reactions do you get when you tell them, like, because you have a really interesting story to tell. So, like, how do people react?
A lot of times their eyes light up, because that's definitely something that, I think everybody's thought about doing. It's almost like saying that you're in the military. Like their eyes light up. They have so many questions that they want to ask. They want to see if you could teach them how to start welding and how they could get into that industry as well. Because ultimately, like I said, everybody wants to be a welder. And unfortunately, everybody wants to be a welder until it's time to do some welder stuff.
Yeah,
So
because yeah, it's grind. I mean, it's hard work as well.
yeah, most definitely. And I think that's where a lot of the admiration comes in, is the amount of hard work that you have to put into it to actually be successful in this industry.
So people recognize and respect that.
Yes, most definitely.
What if you were just welding for fun? Do you ever weld for fun? Do you ever just
All the
weld?
time.
Okay, with no job, with no blueprint, with no somebody telling you this is what I want. What do you do for fun? What would you weld just out of your head?
So if I was to weld stuff just off the top of my head, it'd probably be more so towards the art side of it. So for instance, with MIG welding, I sat there and like pretty much 3D printed the Jordan emblem with the basketball and everything.
That's cool.
And it's a way for you to have your creative outlets and be able to. It's therapeutic in a way. Like honestly, whenever your hood goes down, you hyper focus on what you're doing. You see the overall image of what you're trying to complete or whatever project that you're working on personally, and you just keep adding stuff to it. For instance, like the blacksmithing aspect, I made a railroad spike knife and I put a decorative twist in the handle, and then I sat there and I braze welded all the way around the handle to kind of give it that brass polish to it. And ultimately, it's the sky's the limit. If it's made out of metal, you can ultimately recreate it, reshape it, reform it.
Manipulate it however you imagine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to send us some photos of that.
I will.
That'd be good to look at. What about myths that people have? What are like assumptions people make about the trade that are just flat wrong?
The assumptions that people normally make about the trade is that we're all roughnecks. We're intimidating people to be around, but ultimately we definitely can be, but we definitely have our soft spots too. In my free time I like to coach my kids' soccer team and stuff like that, and it's definitely one of the more bonding moments that I get with them. And another myth of the trade as well is you will get shocked almost every single day, but if you wear your PPE correctly and you make sure that the conditions are correct, you have little to no hazard to you. It's just really being able to stay protected and make sure that you have your leathers on and stuff. That's going to be the biggest myth to it. I mean, it is definitely dangerous, but it's only as dangerous as you make it.
Well, it's dangerous if you're not trained.
Right.
And so I imagine in the classroom, a huge part of your instruction starts with the safety aspects.
That's the very first class we have is safety. Yeah. We have about a 5-hour safety orientation that we run with the students. And it's going over grinder safety, it's going over torch safety, it's going over just in general things that you want to avoid. There's some things that they're not even going to experience in that lab that we still train them safety-wise on. We also offer OSHA certifications as well, which I think is important for anybody's career, because that's one less thing that the job has to train you on, because you're already safety certified for that OSHA cert.
So that sounds like a combination of kind of like book learning, but how much of it is hands-on? Because it's like for me, until I tactily, kind of put my hands on something, I don't really get it. So
same here.
So what's the balance?
So the balance is you're probably looking at about 75% physical work, and then you're looking at about 25% of book work, learning all the terminologies, learning all the vocabulary, the different names of the steels, what flux is, what a bead is, what a puddle is, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And also the metallurgy aspect of it is definitely going to play a huge part into that as well, because you have to know what metals are able to form together molecularly, and also if you're welding on two different materials and they don't, it's not
They're
two
not
metals that
compatible.
like each other, then
Yeah.
you're going to end up having some major issues in that project. So we have to make sure that they know absolutely anything and everything that they possibly can going into this field, because ultimately knowledge is power in this instance.
Well, yeah, you're talking about being in a lab. The lab is where that hands-on
Mhm.
happens, right? So what's that feel like? So you're in the field doing this, learning this in real life applications. And now when you're in the classroom and you're seeing these younger people on your path,
Mhm.
God, that has to feel like amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing. My favorite part is seeing that spark that lights in their eye whenever it's almost like watching a kid ride a bicycle, and like you're having to hold on to the seat for so long, and then eventually you let
You
go
let go.
and they don't even realize it, and then they look back and they're like, "You're not there, but I'm still doing it." It's really awesome. Like it really is. And that's the moment that I know that I changed somebody's life, because they went from struggling every paycheck every month to now they have a career ahead of them. They made it click. They know exactly what they need to do to be able to be in this industry. And granted, it's going to take some practice to perfect it, but ultimately, just being able to get that initially started is
Yeah.
probably one of the bigger obstacles. And I feel like they definitely feel that as well. And as soon as they do see that click and they do see that they're able to lay down a really nice weld, it motivates them to keep on going. It makes them hungry. It makes them want to, ultimately be their absolute best in this career.
Yeah. Do you help them get started? Like, is there a placement or?
Yeah, we do have career placement as well. So whenever they leave our program, we have a career services department, and they will place students in jobs. They had like up to a 93% career placement rate
Wow, that's huge.
within the last 5 years or something similar to that. But um,
Over 90%. That's 9 out of 10 plus. That's amazing.
yeah, I mean they do a killer job, and it takes a village to raise a tradesman ultimately. So um, with us training them, giving them the safety knowledge, and with career services helping them get their foot in the door with all these different companies is really awesome. Another company that we just ended up sending a whole bunch of welding students to was a place called GTI here in, I think it's in Goodyear, but it's a really, they're looking for 250 more welders by the end of the year. So
Holy cow.
sounds
Yeah.
like I got a quota I have to meet.
So if you want to get employed, there's demand. People need welders right now.
Yeah, they needed you as of yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you got to get learning first. You got to get
Yeah.
learning right now.
Most definitely. And I mean, that's the first step, is just taking that initiative to, better your life and better your situation. And ultimately, that's what welding provides. And
That's what it did for you, right?
most definitely, it definitely did.
Matt Braden, instructor at RSI of welding. Thanks for joining us.
No problem at all.
Appreciate the stories, appreciate the insight. That's a
course.
wrap on The Big Burn, the welding life. Big thanks to Matt Braden for giving us a front row seat to the sparks, the sweat, and the serious rewards of a career in welding. From the first time striking an arc to landing real world jobs with real money on the line, today's episode proves one thing. Welding isn't just a trade, it's a way of life, it's a badge of honor. If you're into hands-on work, high heat, and the pride of building things that really last, welding just might be your move. So if you're feeling fired up, head to tws.edu or rsi.edu to learn about programs, scholarships, and how to get started. And hey, if you like what you heard, leave us a review, give us a like, and subscribe. And don't miss episode 5, where we flip the switch and dive into the world of electrical line workers. We'll explore how electricians are lighting the way to some of the most secure, high-paying jobs in the trades. Until then, stay sharp, stay driven, and keep building your future. This is Skilled Nation.